Hi, my name is Braasch, and I'm the PhD candidate in philosophy at Yale who was falsely accused of racism and whose life was destroyed by the Yale administration, the press, and a global internet rage mob. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel to watch another video. As I usually mention, I just want to let you know I'm holding my iPhone in my hand and I'll try to hold it as still as possible. I am thinking about getting some new equipment, some better equipment. I will be reading from a script, so that's why I'll be glancing off camera, and I'll try to be as not stilted as I can possibly be. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So today I want to continue my brief but comprehensive big picture account of what happened at Yale this past spring during the living or napping while black incident. In my previous video, I established that everything that occurred took place at the top of a tower, immediately outside of my isolated remote dorm room, which I rarely left, as I lived like a hermit because I was recovering from severe trauma. The one other logistical point that I wish to make clear is that my dorm room was the only dorm room on the 12th floor of the tower, and there was a single other room on that floor. The entirety of the 12th floor consists of a small landing outside of the elevator. On one side of the landing is my dorm room, and on the other side of the landing is a small common room, which was always locked, but the keys of all residents open the door to the room. Now, this room was technically referred to as a common room, but it was rarely used. In the 2 years that I had lived in my dorm room there, it had been used maybe once a week for a party, usually on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday evening. Almost invariably, these parties were loud and obnoxious, went late into the evening or early morning in violation of housing regulations, and the participants left the common room trashed, with garbage strewn everywhere, including in the stairwell and the nearest trash bins overflowing. But the most important point is that in the almost 2 years that I lived there, I never once complained about this behavior to Yale housing. Was it annoying? Yes, of course it was. But I was really very happy in my dorm room. I liked my living situation overall, so I put up with it. So the notion that my attackers attempted to propagate in the news media that I felt any kind of ownership over the 12th floor common room, or that I tried to restrict its use by other residents in any way, shape, or form before February 24th, 2018, is a straight-up, bald-faced lie. In the almost 2 years that I lived there, I hardly ever entered this space. I never used it for any reason. The one other point that I wish to make abundantly clear is that I never, in the almost 2 years that I lived there, saw anyone use that space for anything other than a raucous party. That is the only thing I ever saw. No one ever used that space to study. I never noticed anyone even entering that room for any other purpose than a party. And I believe that I would have been aware if it had been the case that residents were making use of the room for the purpose of studying. It was always obvious to me, even inside my dorm room, if someone was entering or exiting the 12th floor common room. This part of the explanation ended up being more detailed than I had originally intended, but I think it's important to be clear about the physical space. The narrative that my attackers and the Yale administration attempted to propagate through the news media, that I was strolling through a space that was something akin to a huge university library, where it would have been normal to see students dozing over their books and laptops, and perhaps on sofas, is entirely false. And as is the notion that I regarded this space as a white space, and I, a lifelong human and civil rights activist, was offended that a black person was making use of it, so I had decided to eject them for that reason. This narrative is so preposterous on its face that it's hard for me to believe that anyone regards it as plausible. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me.